Alright, we are looking through the Vortex Razor Gen 3 1 to 10 by 24 with the EBR-9 milliradian reticle. This scope is about 2 grand, so it's less than half the price of the Schmidt, and easily one of my favorites. Like I said, if you have a couple of grand to spend on a general purpose AR-15, AR-10 type scope, I think this is the one. This is the one to beat. The mountain we're looking at is very far away. The scope does not have parallax adjustment, so it's focused at 100 yards. The mount is a few miles out of the mountain, so we'll look at something a little bit closer. But before we do that, I'll just zoom out. We're on 10 power right now. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.5, and 1. This is 1. The reticle right now is not illuminated, so you're kind of getting a good idea that while it's not super visible and all that without illumination, it is usable. I think that is making front focal plane reticle that's usable across a broad 10-time reactor. Magnification range is kind of tricky. And I think Vortex has a decent compromise with it. I would not use it non-illuminated on 1 power for precision shooting, but for a minute of man, so to speak, it's not that hard. The roof of the building you're looking at is about 50-55 yards from me. You can look at the size of the windows, etc. I could easily hit metal plates 18-inch or thereabouts without illumination. Not as fast as I would with illumination, but fast enough. Right, let's aim at something a little bit closer. Once again, there are no guns pointed at anyone. The scope is on a tripod right now. I'm gonna point at a roof over there that is about 100 yards away, and I'll zoom in again. Okay, so EBR-9 milliradian reticle. You see the roof shingles, a little bit of the Albuquerque sky. Everything looks very nice. Optical, the scope is, in my opinion, very well worked out. I like what I see. There's an 11 milliradian tree, which in principle is a little bit more than I like. I would have preferred less to make it a little bit less clutter, but I understand why they did it. 11 milliradian is basically what you need to get to 1,000 yards with a typical 762. And I suspect a lot of these scopes will end up on 16, 17-inch barrel 762 rifles, the SCARs, the AR-10s, that kind of stuff. I mostly used it on a 6.5 Grendel, and where I live is supersonic at 1,000 yards, and I could easily get there with this reticle. Notice that right from the beginning it gives you 2 milliradian of wind holes in the tree, which is quite useful in windy areas, and then it goes out to a maximum of 6 milliradians of wind from 6 and further milliradian of trajectory compensation. It's quite nice. The thin part of the reticle near the center, if you choose to dial or you need to lead, hold for wind, it's just a nicely designed reticle. Notice that the center portion, where there is this kind of a segmented donut and a center dot, are slightly grayed out. It's because of the diffractive reticle illumination technology that Vortex uses to make this bright on 10, on low power and high power and everything. Only this center portion is illuminated, and what happens is that on 1 power it effectively becomes a one large, very bright dot. So this scope is very, very fast. On 1 power, I wouldn't be surprised to see some people start using this design on hunting rifles as well, because if it holds up, and it looks like it's holding up nicely so far, it's going to be very fast on 1 power while giving you reasonable range, and given very good optical quality even in low light, it was quite nice. Schmidt was better, but Schmidt is 4.5 grand, so I expect it to be better. given the modest objective, it was surprisingly good in low light. Alright, so I am gonna turn on the illumination and rack through the magnification range so that you can kind of see what we're dealing with. First, so the low levels of illumination, right now illumination is on 1 and I covered the object, you can barely see it. It did not affect my night vision in low light. Okay, and we're now during the day. There is an offsetting between on settings, right? So every other click of the illumination turret is off. 3. You will not see anything just yet. Now we're on 5. So here it's already kind of visible. It's not super bright. I'm gonna get up to 11, which is the highest, and here it's very bright. Now I'm gonna go through the magnification range. 10, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Notice how the dot is just becoming a nuclear bright dot. 2 and 1, and that dot is bright. And on 1, this scope is seriously fast. Nicely corrected, wide field of view. It is the same general technology as Nightfort uses for reticle illumination and X8 and Attacker, but well, an X8 is a nice compact scope, but for me it's harder to get behind and it's not quite as nice optically. The Attacker is very comparable to this. I think optically they're close, probably almost very similar. The reticles are similar, a lot of similarities. Razor has notably wider, about 10-12% wider field of view, which for me is important on a scope like this. And the center dot is very slightly smaller, so distance it's a little bit easier to use. But honestly, at distance with both this and the Attacker F1, you'll be using the tree for the distance. You can dial with this, works fine. The turret tracks I checked, but it's really designed to be used with the reticle. Right, I'm gonna go back up in magnification again, so you can see the ultra bright dot. Okay. All right, yeah, I'm gonna point to one other thing. There are all those lamps that my neighbor's hanging somewhere that I like to look at, and there is some shrubbery, a few things closer. So right now, if you look at the roof edge and that reddish roof, and then there's a gray shingle roof in front of us. The closest edge of the gray shingle roof is about 50-55 yards, I think. And the lamps you see on the left side of the picture hanging there are about 100 yards. So this kind of gives you a decent idea of the depth of field of the scope. And as I go down magnification, you'll see everything is becoming, the depth of field is just increasing. But honestly, even on 10 power, it was not bad at all. I like this scope. I'm keeping this scope. I think it is wonderful. And it is, for the money, I think this is the best tactical precision lpvo out there right now. And racking through magnification one more time, now without reticle illumination.